Okay, so I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Hero needs to slow the fuck down because we've had way too many things happen in this arc alone. I mean, seriously, if you look back at everything that's happened since this arc began, it's just been too much. I mean, let's look back at everything that's happened in this arc so far. We've had kind of really started off, we had the entire planet being taken over by robots. We've had Iki, Rebecca, and Homura each getting a fight against opponents that were stronger than them. We'd had Justice show up and try to kidnap Homura and kill Shiki, only for Elsie to show up and the two of them to get into a fight. We found out more about their backstory. Then we end up meeting the guy who taught Ziggy gravity ether gear. And on top of that, we end up finding out what happened to Kleene and Jin back when they were children, and how Jin not only ended up in his Otech body, but the reason why Kleene is so traumatized to the point that she's at right now. Literally, six to five big things that happened in this arc alone, and I still feel like we're probably not even like. I'd say we're probably only like 60% done the arc so far. I think we got like at least another 3 to 4 chapters left. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I'm enjoying every chapter week by week. In fact, this week's chapter probably was the most hyped chapter since, what was it, chapter 124, 123 was a chapter I think we got with the LZ versus Justice fight. Whatever chapter that was, that was the most hyped chapter prior to this one. I would probably put this one right behind that one as far as hypeness goes. But still, we need to slow down. Hero needs to slow down and save some reveals and save some big things for later on in the series, because we are just getting too much too fast in this arc. Now, I actually found the beginning of the chapter really interesting, how Shiki reacted to finding out about Xenolith, because at first he was just kind of calm about it, and then it had that like delayed reaction of him realizing what was actually happening, and then him freaking out thinking that Xenolith was actually a ghost. That was hilarious. I actually really cannot wait to get this scene animated. I'm sure it's going to be funny and well done, as long as, you know, the animators do a good quality, but Fairy Tail had a pretty good quality throughout the entire run, so I can imagine that the same people are going to be animating Eden Zero. We should be in good hands, but yeah, finding out that Xenolith used to be a person. Wow, I mean, I knew, obviously, because we've seen Otex, and we knew that you can, you know, turn yourself, or like kind of make yourself into a hybrid human robot. That might be a possibility, but finding out that you actually can, if you're a human, if your physical body is dying, you can actually put your mind into a robot and to continue living on. And if I remember correctly, in the chapter it said that he had died over 1,000 years ago. So that means that Xenolith is now like 1,000+ years old. I would say at the very least like 1,040 years old, since he had to be like, since he looked like in that silhouette, he might have been in like his late 30s, early 40s when he was talking about his human body. Which, by the way, just made me realize how old Ziggy actually is, because if he taught Ziggy over 1,000 years ago, or if he died over 1,000 years ago, and he taught Ziggy before he died, that means that Master Xenolith, or at least assuming that he taught Ziggy before he died, that would mean that that would mean that Ziggy is 1,000+ years old, which would also mean that the Shining Stars are probably up there in the hundreds of years old when you think about it. And I mean, since they're androids, it does make sense that they could be that age. But when you look at Hermit and think, oh man, she might be like 500+ years old, you really don't get that sense, and it's really hard to picture that. Now, what's really interesting about Xenolith is that we find out in this chapter from him that he was actually one of the members of the, I believe they were called the the Dark Knights of the Dancing Sakura, which we have not heard about since chapter 29 of Eden Zero. So it's been a long time since we'd had any reference to this. But these were the characters, these 12 characters who defended the Sakura Cosmos back during the Dark Ages, and they are also considered the heroes of Blue Garden. So yeah, this has been a long time coming. This is something that Hero set up in the beginning, like literally the beginning of the series, and he's paying off now almost 100 chapters later. But we really don't have any more information on them besides the fact that they were kind of like legendary heroes, you know, people, kind of like a folklore that the people in Blue Garden and people in the Sakura Cosmos talk about. So I'm actually interested in finding out more about the Dark Ages from him, and exactly what happened, what were they defending it on, and, you know, what's going on with any of the other characters who were part of his group. Like, are any of them still alive just like he is? Did they all pass on and die and he's the last one? I'm interested in finding that out, and I'm hoping we actually do get to meet more members of his group. And possibly, since we can pretty much guess that he's going to end up being like Kiki's kind of like mentor going forward, it'd be kind of cool if we actually get to see some other characters from his same group come back and be mentors for the other characters, and, you know, help them get stronger as the series goes on. Because I mean, more than likely, as you can see, they're fighting stronger and stronger opponents with each arc. They're going to need to find ways to get stronger than, you know, basically just having simple tricks to win their fights. Because if you think back to the fights that Shiki, Rebecca, and Homura had in this arc, yeah, Shiki won this fight, but he had to go into overdrive in order to do it. And Rebecca and Homura both had to use tricks in order to basically defeat their opponents. Tricks that would never work again if they had to fight them again. He also ended up mentioning that Ziggy fell to the dark side of gravity, which, right away you already think the dark side of the Force from Star Wars. So I'm wondering if, this is kind of Hero making a reference to that and kind of incorporating that idea into the Eden Zero universe when it comes to the gravity ether gear abilities. But I'm actually interested in what that means. Does this mean that the Ziggy that we see running around right now actually is the real Ziggy, or not is the real Ziggy, but this is actually what Ziggy's intending to do? That, like, everything that he's doing right now is because he actually fell to the dark side after he kind of just died off, technically, when Shiki was a kid. Because, I mean, I've always had kind of the assumption that Ziggy's kind of just putting on an act and basically just playing around right now as a way to kind of lead Shiki on his journey and help him get stronger along the way. But seemingly, it looks like Ziggy actually might really be evil right now, which means we're probably going to have kind of like a Luke Skywalker Vader thing going on between the two characters, where eventually the two of them will end up fighting after Shiki gets to a certain level, like a certain power level, and is able to actually take him on. And we'll have a moment where Ziggy, after defeating him, probably brings him back onto the good side just moments before Ziggy ends up dying again. Now, we also got a way to see exactly what's going on with LZ and Justice in their fight, and we end up finding out that when they try to use Grand Chariot on each other in the last chapter, because of Xenolith's gravity ether gear ability that he used in the last chapter, they ended up missing each other kind of. Well, they hit each other, but they missed their vitals. So at this point, they're still kind of like a stalemate. And right when they're about to continue to fight, one of LZ's subordinates actually comes to pick her up. I can't remember the guy's name. I think it was like Hermit or something like that. But he picks her up and basically says that, hey, Homer has already been saved, because when we cut over to the fight with, I think, Gawain, and what was the other name of the, what up, I gotta look this up real quick, Hyoga. When we cut over to Gawain and Hyoga and they're fighting against Justice and, or not Justice, Creed and Victory, we end up finding out that basically, because of the gravity for gear that Xenolith used, Victory almost ended up crushing Homura during their fight. So Creed actually let her free from the cage that he put her in just to save her life. And in that moment, basically, Rebecca came in, picked Homer up on a bike that she randomly picked up in some point between chapters, and they got out of there. And then Hyoga and Gawain also got out of there because there was no reason for them to fight anymore. We also get this little scene where we again imply that Creed has a little bit of a crush on Homer, or he has some kind of like interest in her romantically, because we get the scene where he's like looking at her as she's escaping and he's blushing and she's looking back at him and she's like, what the fuck was all that about? Because you literally throughout the entire scene, every scene or every time Homer talks, throughout the entire interaction between the two groups, she's like, what the fuck is going on here? So yeah, Homer and Rebecca escaped, which, by the way, we get this sad scene where that little girl that Rebecca saved in the last chapter, we end up finding out that the robot who died at the beginning of this arc, that basically was trying to warn Shiki and them about everyone going crazy, and then I think Mora was the one who killed him. Yeah, that robot was actually that little girl's like friend, and he was one of the few robots who didn't turn against humans and actually was trying to help her out. So we get that sad scene where we end up finding out that, yeah, her friend's dead. And it's also kind of implied that she doesn't have any family on Caressa anymore, so maybe she might end up joining up with the group. I don't see a reason why we would need her on the team, other than to be kind of like the cute little mascot character. But I feel like Pino and Happy already fill that role, so I don't know. I'm not sure what Hero's actually doing with this little girl and why she's in the story right now, but we'll see what's going on with that. But I actually did find it kind of funny how when LZ was basically escaping, even though her and Justice were basically just trying to kill each other not that long ago, she still finds time to basically just flirt with him as she's getting away. Now, for some reason, Holly, one of the other Orition Says Interstellar, the group that Justice belongs to, outside of the Intergalactic Union Army, she kind of chimes in after LZ escapes and basically teases Justice for letting her get away. And then she mentions that she's kind of afraid to see exactly how strong LZ could end up becoming in the future, and how much of a problem she might end up being, which, even though she says she's afraid, the way she looks and the way she's acting in this like little conversation that her and Justice are having, it kind of implies that she's interested in finding out exactly how far LZ can go, or like kind of interested in messing around with whatever's going on with those two characters. So I'm guessing that next time we actually get them interacting or continue their storyline, she's going to be involved in some way, which I'm interested in finding out, because we really don't know anything about Justice's group, the Orition Says Interstellar, or the Orition Says Galactica that LZ belongs to. So I'm really interested in finding out more about their members, because again, we don't really know anything about them. Then we get this really, really sad moment, or this really sad scene where we go back to what, wow, I'm blanking on the name, Eden Zero. We go back to the Eden Zero ship, man, I can't believe I blanked on that name. But we go back to the ship and we see that Kleene is still having her mental breakdown, and she's having it real bad to the point where her device is not working. And remember back in the beginning of the arc, I believe Jin told Sister that if Kleene starts to experience any emotions or remember any of the past memories that she went through from her trauma, she'll have like pretty much a mental breakdown and pretty much just become a vegetable. This seems like it's about to happen in this chapter as she's having a mental breakdown or like having an emotional breakdown right now. And we get this moment where Jin literally gets on all four, like all his hands and knees, and begs Sister, telling her that she can use any part of his limbs, any organs, anything he has left that makes him a human. She can have it. She can use it to whatever, for whatever reason that she needs, as long as she can save his sister. Which when I was reading, I was like, wait, why? What's your arm gonna do? What's your organs gonna do? What's your blood gonna do? How is any of that gonna help her save your sister? And then we get the big reveal, which I think we all pretty much saw coming since Kleene started having kind of her mental breakdown earlier in the arc. But we end up finding out when we go back to the satellite as Wise is fighting off against Dr. Mueller and none of his attacks are working. We find out that he experimented on his body in order to turn himself into the perfect OTEC, the perfect robot-human hybrid. And in order to do that, he experimented on dozens upon dozens of humans in order to figure out exactly how to get his body to be as it is right now. And what we end up finding out at the end of the chapter is that two of the first humans that he experimented on were Kleene and Jin as their children, as we end up finding out that what he did in the past was that he cut away and tortured and basically experimented on Jin until he ended up becoming the kind of robot OTEC android that we have in the current day, and made Kleene watch the entire experience. That's the reason why she is traumatized to this day. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I did not see that coming. I knew she had to go through some kind of like traumatic experience, and I knew there had to be a reason why Jin became like the android that he is. I had always kind of assumed that he kind of like just went through the modifications because he wanted to protect his sister from going through any trauma. So he basically just did that to make himself stronger so that he could protect her. But finding out that not, he basically had that choice taken away from him, that he was turned into this by this Dr. Muir guy, and the fact that Kleene had to sit there and watch, and that's the reason why she is traumatized right now. Man, Hero will pull out some dark shit for their storyline. I mean, seriously, for everyone's storyline. Like, literally every character in this art, or every character in this series, has a dark past. And man, this shit is starting to hit heavier than I thought it would. I mean, because going into Eden Zero, you thought it was just going to be a light, kind of light adventure, just like how Fairy Tail was in the beginning. And ooh, we're getting to the dark shit a lot faster than we did in Fairy Tail. But at the same time, that's what's really exciting about the series, the fact that we're actually doing things differently than we did in Fairy Tail. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the future. And one thing I can definitely agree when it comes to Eden Zero that I've heard other YouTubers say, this story definitely feels like what Hiro Mashima wanted to write when he originally started Fairy Tail. Like, this is the story that he's always wanted to write, and he's finally getting a chance to do it. So I'm just excited to see exactly what ends up playing out from all of this. Now that's pretty much it for the chapter, but before I end the video, I do want to say that going into the next chapter, I think what's going to end up happening is that the reason why Hiro has Laguna going over to the satellite is because of the fact that he already knew that he was going to have Wise be able to defeat him in his Arsenal suit, because he was going to have Dr. Muir be the perfect OTEC that kind of is too strong for Wise to handle. And since Herman's kind of like in a state where she can't really fight against Dr. Muir right now, I think he has Laguna going there to kind of be like the key to defeating Muir. Because all Laguna really has to do is get Dr. Muir to cry, and then he'll instantly win due to his ability. And considering how erratic Dr. Muir's been and how crazy he is, it really wouldn't take that much to probably make him cry. So him going there is kind of basically just the ace in the hole. Basically, what I think is going to end up happening is that maybe Herman won't actually fight Dr. Muir, but basically just kind of like provoke him and like basically belittle him in front of everyone and make him cry. And then Laguna's going to basically use that ability that he has to turn him into tears and water, and then basically just put him in a bottle, and then that's it. But yeah, that's pretty much what I think is going to end up happening in the next chapter, or at the very least when we continue this satellite storyline. But let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought about the video, what you thought about the chapter, and what you think is going to be happening in next week's chapter. But that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Comment down below your thoughts and theories. Follow me on Twitter at, what's my Twitter again? At Archive Mangas, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.